this isn't just a punch, it's a moment that changed One Piece forever. For hundreds of years, the celestial dragons sat above the world, untouchable gods of an unjust heaven. But one random day in the Sabaody archipelago, Luffy broke that rule. And that single act of defiance, Luffy's fist against a god, triggered a chain of events that shattered the balance of power, destroyed the Straw Hats, and set the stage for the final war. This is the punch that changed One Piece forever. It might have looked simple, but it's one of the most important actions in the entire series, because before this moment, the Celestial Dragons weren't just powerful people, they were treated like literal gods. No one could look at them, talk to them, or even breathe wrong around them without risking their life. Everyone in the world of One Piece knew one thing: if you touch the Celestial Dragon, you're done. And Oda built that fear on purpose. He introduced these characters to show how broken the system really was. A world where these so-called divine bloodlines mattered more than human life. And for hundreds of chapters, nobody challenged that, until Luffy walked into Sabaody. When Charlos shot Hachi, everyone froze. The slaves, the pirates, even the audience in the auction house. They knew what that meant. I'm sure in that moment you could feel the air get heavier, but that didn't stop the man with the straw hat. Luffy didn't even hesitate. He didn't look around, he didn't care who was watching, he just walked forward and threw one of the coldest punches in history. Few punches have been strong enough to revert the anime back into the manga. That single hit wasn't about anger or pride, it was instinct. Luffy saw injustice and reacted the only way he knows how, by breaking the system that caused it. And the craziest part is, Oda used this one moment to shift the entire tone of the story. From this point forward, One Piece stopped being just about adventure, it turned into a real full-scale world affair. Now here's the thing. This wasn't just a punch, this was a declaration of war. This moment between Luffy and Charlos is about freedom versus control. The Celestial Dragons are the physical embodiment of control. They're born into power, protected by the Marines, and worshipped like gods simply because of their bloodline. They didn't earn this respect, they inherited it. And Luffy, he's the complete opposite. He represents earned freedom, the kind of freedom that doesn't need permission. He doesn't care who's in charge, who's watching, or what law says he can or can't do. To Luffy, freedom is justice. So when he throws that punch, he's not just hitting Charlos, he's hitting the entire system. And here's what makes it even deeper: who Luffy is. Because this isn't just some random pirate standing up to a god, this is Monkey D. Luffy, a descendant of the very people the world government tried to erase from history. So when a D punches a Celestial Dragon, that's not coincidence. And if you really look at it, this was Oda paying off something he started hundreds of chapters earlier. Back at Enies Lobby, when the Straw Hats burned the world government's flag, that was the symbolic declaration of war, but Luffy punching the Celestial Dragon, that's the physical version of it. That one punch didn't just shake the auction house, it sent ripples across the entire world. So the second Luffy's fist connected, the world government had no choice but to respond. They sent one of their top guys to take care of the problem, Admiral Kizaru. That's how serious this was. An admiral doesn't get deployed for an ordinary pirate. They get deployed when someone disrupts the natural order. When Kizaru arrived on Sabaody, the tone of the story shifted instantly. Up until this point, the Straw Hats had faced opponents where you always thought there was a chance for victory, but this was different. Kizaru had strength and power they'd never seen before. An overpowered devil fruit that made him travel at the speed of light. Multiple types of advanced hockey. This was the full weight of the world coming down on them. The Marines weren't chasing bounties anymore, they were protecting their gods, and in that moment, the Straw Hats learned what it actually meant to stand against the system. Kizaru's arrival wasn't about capturing the Straw Hats, it was about making an example out of them. The pacifistas surrounded the island, the supernovas got wiped out one by one, and for the first time, the crew that had always found a way to win couldn't. Luffy couldn't protect his friends and the Straw Hats were completely dismantled. Because of one punch, the Straw Hats could have been wiped out completely, and they would have been if it wasn't for Kuma. In an instant, he sent each of them flying to different corners of the world. It was the most devastating moment in the series up to that point. For a crew that prided itself on loyalty and unity, being torn apart was worse than death. But it was also necessary. You see, that punch was Luffy's act of rebellion. It was the spark that forced Oda to evolve the story. It exposed how unprepared the crew truly was for the world they were trying to challenge. This is what makes the moment so powerful in my eyes. That single act of defiance directly led to the 2-year time skip, to their individual growth, and to their eventual return stronger than ever. Without that punch, there's no Kizaru, no Kuma, no separation, no training arc. It was the turning point that shifted One Piece into the fun pirate adventure into a full-scale war on the government. This was the punch that set everything in motion. It's easy to see it as just another moment of Luffy being reckless and protecting a friend or defending him because he was mad, but what Oda did here was far bigger. This wasn't just rebellion within the story, it was rebellion through the story. That punch is Oda speaking directly to the readers about systems of power. The Celestial Dragons represent absolute inherited privilege. People born into godhood who built a world designed to keep themselves above everyone else. I mean, they literally live on top of the world above everyone. They don't work for their power, they don't fight for their power, they just inherit it by being born there. It's the ultimate form of control, and it's the system that defines the world of One Piece. Luffy, on the other hand, is the complete opposite. He's what some call the Man of Freedom, or more notably known now as the Warrior of Liberation. The person who doesn't care about titles, ranks, or status. Luffy will treat a king and a nobody the exact same. He's more interested in getting to know the person than about their title or their strength. So when Oda has Luffy punch a Celestial Dragon like he did on Sabaody, he's making a statement. True freedom can't exist in a world where divinity is used to justify oppression. That is the general theme around this punch and what I'm trying to get in this video. The entire journey of One Piece, every island, every fight, every enemy, comes back to that one core idea. And you can see this idea and the same energy repeat throughout the series. When Luffy beats Enel, Enel was a self-proclaimed god. That's Oda showing us the same philosophy but in a more literal form. Man versus God. Freedom versus control. When Luffy goes to Dressrosa and defeats Doflamingo, it's also very similar. Doflamingo believed he was better than everyone else because of his heavenly birthright. He was born atop of Marie Joie with the Celestial Dragons, and therefore he believed he was simply better than everyone else just because of that. It's another variation of the same message from Enel and from this punch in Sabaody. And when Luffy takes on Kaido, who believes in the natural order of strength and domination, it's that rebellion against that hierarchy all over again. In my opinion, each of these fights is a reflection on the same ideation that we see in Sabaody, and they can all tie into this one punch. That's why I believe this one punch is what changed the story. That's what makes it so cool. It set the tone for everything Luffy stands against the rest of the series. Whether it's a self-proclaimed god, a tyrant, or a celestial king, the message stays the same. No one stands above freedom. Luffy goes from island to island, freeing more people each time. Literally since he defeated Arlong all the way back in Arlong Park, he's been doing this. It's just this punch in Sabaody that I think made it turn into a war against the government. So that's why this scene matters so much. It's the day Luffy stopped being just another pirate chasing adventure and became something else entirely. The embodiment of the will of D. The man destined to bring down the false gods of the world. From that day on, One Piece stopped being a story about chasing dreams and became a story about changing the world. That single punch on Sabaody started a domino effect that we've continued to see as more dominoes fall, and now in the anime at least on Egghead. From that moment on, Luffy was on a collision course with the people who control everything. What started with just one Celestial Dragon has slowly escalated into a war against the gods themselves. First it was Enel, then Doflamingo, then Kaido, each one a self-proclaimed ruler, each one a reflection of the same arrogance that Luffy refused to bow down to. And now, in the final saga, we're seeing the full weight of that defiance. Luffy is standing toe-to-toe with the highest powers in the world. The Five Elders, the ones who directly serve the empty throne. The same kid who once threw a punch without thinking is now challenging the divine order that's ruled the seas for 800 years. Every step, every island, every fight has been leading to this inevitable moment. The day Luffy comes face to face with Imu will be the day his journey comes full circle. The day freedom itself strikes back. That's the legacy of this scene. This punch changed One Piece forever, but it was more than that. It was the punch that started the end of the world.